Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Negative Connotations Pappas. You and him have to stop staring at me.
Sorry.
That's right. Put him down.
I put him down. We're not going to tell you what him is.
No.
That's for us to know and for you filthy minds to figure out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He is,
It's a little squeeze toy.
It's a squeeze toy.
Yeah.
With the bug-out eyes.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then I made bug-out eyes.
It worked well.
Yeah.
Yep. And those are the negative connotations that I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Like I said, Creating Canon and Nicholas C. Pappas.
Thank you.
Can we start now?
Yeah, now I can start the episode.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because there was some negative connotations with not using my name.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And now that you have,
Yep.
we can have positive connotations.
And pasta connotations.
Pasta connotations?
Pasta connotations.
Ooh. Ooh.
Listen.
Ooh.
Yeah?
Oof. Ugh. Ooh. Eek. I'm just saying, Carmine in this movie would not appreciate.
Might whack me.
Yeah, might whack you.
Might take me to Detroit and whack me.
Yeah, take you to the. Hey, I'm Carmine. I'm taking you to Detroit. I'm gonna whack you. I'm gonna use my hand like this, and I'm gonna talk like this. Oh boy.
Don't you mean Elliot Gould mixed with Donald Sutherland?
Yep.
Yeah.
Elliot Suthergould. Real name Mike Lane. You know what? We should actually mention what we're watching.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
We are watching the 1976
Classic
pre-Go-Go Boys days, The Zebra Force.
The Zebra Force.
Also known as?
Codename Zebra.
Oh.
Which is weird because there was a sequel called Codename Zebra.
Huh.
Also known as The Chameleons and also known as Defiance. Tagline: running with the mob can be deadly. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, yes it can, but that hardly encapsulates the movie.
No. Should I encapsulate the movie?
I think you should.
All right.
Go
That was a
for
pretty
it.
Good segue. All right.
You're welcome.
A group of Vietnam vets clean up their city and make a little money while sticking it to the mafia. Zebra Force, featuring the most responsible use of blackface since ever?
Huh. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
think.
you know, it's...
Still shouldn't be done.
No. Well, we should... Maybe we shouldn't give away the
game yet?
game quite yet.
Yeah. I mean, it reveals pretty soon in the movie.
Right, but
it's
we
very
should,
interesting,
We
though.
should set up what ends up happening. So
Sure.
We have... Well, first of all, we started this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ is one of those ones who likes to watch things with subtitles on.
Yes.
Which is fine.
Because sometimes the quality of the audio isn't that prime.
Even
on Prime. Yeah.
Well, this was really fun in that we started the movie and then the subtitles were from a completely different movie.
About Christmas.
Yep.
They were in a mobster casino
Yep.
that looked like it was a porno version of a museum. Like if you've ever seen a mansion like transformed in a porno.
How many porno museum
I don't know, but
shots
like
are there?
have you ever seen a mansion that they're trying to transform into like
that Da Vinci's really got me hot.
They try to make them into all different types of things. The things up in the hills, the
porno
houses.
mansions.
Yes, exactly.
Into museums.
Into whatever.
Oh, you come here often? Well, yes, I love looking at the Rothko. Oh, that's great.
Just because you played Rothko in a
Yeah,
play,
right.
I
know,
good,
that's why I
good
went
reference,
there.
and
I
it
did
was
my best.
and it turned into a good porno. So that
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who my favorite artist is? Andy Warhol. Oh, me too.
They're producing that next week, I'm sure.
Wow.
But they started in a mobster. They started a mobster casino that looks poorly made, and the subtitles start saying, Now, the true meaning of Christmas was never really known.
I know
But
the
we
true
had-
meaning of Christmas. It's a porno scene at a museum.
Right.
Is this the Getty? Because I'm going to Getty me some
Somewhat. Somewhat. Finish that.
butt.
Good.
Getting me some butt.
So this actually starts out pretty interestingly. Like we said, it's in the porno museum, and the mobsters are playing roulette. No, what are we playing?
Craps. Blackjack.
That's right.
Just all like the regular.
All the
casino
stuff.
games.
All the porno museum games.
I just keep imagining like a porno museum's like, and over here we have Ron Jeremy's pubes. And over here, that is the actual underwear worn by Jenna Jameson. Oh, don't step on that spot.
That's actually an installation.
That's an installation. Well, it was an installation, and now it's another installation.
And while they're playing these games,
Yeah, just typical casino games.
typical casino games, one guy goes up to the door because he hears a knock, and typical mob casino talk is happening. Right?
Hey, Salvatore, why don't you get up there and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Ooh, is it the fuzz?
And so a guy goes to the door,
Yeah.
and it gets blown off its hinges.
It explodes. And what's crazy about it is the dude standing at the door just gets a face full of door
Yeah.
and flies
Back
backwards.
onto the craps table.
Yeah, with like smoke and fire all pouring in. That was truly nuts.
I will say, the effects on this and the stunts were magnificent. I won't go into many more of them yet until we get to them.
I will tell you why they're magnificent.
Why is
'Cause I
that?
agree with you. The stunts in this movie were fucking incredible.
Yeah.
This movie was directed by a guy named Joe Tornatore. Written and directed by him. Well, he came up with the story and screenplay.
Okay.
Additional scenes and dialogue were written by a woman named Annette Lombardi.
Oh.
But Joe Tornatore, what he's actually most known for is being a stuntman.
Oh.
Including things like Big Trouble in Little China.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
So that's what he did for most of his life.
That makes a lot of sense then.
And I'm sure he called in all of his old stunt buddies to do awesome stunts in this.
Because they did.
Yeah. And I would say that between the stunts and a couple of the reveals, this movie feels like it's worth the price of admission.
It is. Free.
Yes.
But,
And at a slim an hour and 19 minutes, yeah, you know what? We'll just put a pin in that.
of course, as with many of these Amazon Prime movies, or as you said, we can watch this on YouTube,
I'm pretty sure Amazon Prime just went to YouTube and pulled that version. It's
yes,
like an old VHS.
looks absolutely right, because it is very blurry, hard on the eyes, I would say.
Yeah.
I know that we always harp on this, and I hope not too long, but it's just, the opening credits after the heist, you could not read the names, and there was a weird face icon, it looked like, that kept switching, like having slices cut out of it,
Yeah,
and
it
then
looks sort of like a zebra tail at times.
a little bit, and I think
Or a zebra, yeah.
but then other times it looked like
A face.
It
was really hard
yellow
to...
and black, and it was just
Yeah,
it was
and I
bad,
think it was
bad
actually
times.
supposed to be white and black. It's just that
Sure.
the copy was just so
It's
degraded.
it's a shame, because you don't necessarily get to see the intended film,
Yeah.
and it's a shame, because I'm sure I would have been more engaged. Maybe
Question mark?
there's a lot of talking.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to, because we didn't
Yeah,
actually
sure.
finish what happens at the heist. There's the awesome stunts and everything, and then a group of like 7 black men come in.
Yeah.
And this is I'm only pointing this out because it's very specific to plot. 7 black men come in, and they go ahead and they like kill half the people at the casino,
Rob them,
take their money. They only kill the mobsters. Anyone who's actually part of, like, any patron of the casino, they seem to let go free.
Yeah.
And that's when we get to that thing where it's like,
The opening credits.
Yeah, the opening credits.
They race away, and there's a crazy reveal immediately after the credits, right?
Actually, no. So right after the credits, this dude calls up his boss. He calls up his boss, who is a mob boss, and he's like, we've been hit. Gus is dead.
Whoever Gus was, which we weren't introduced to him at the beginning.
Well, this was I loved this set of lines because the guy's like, we've been hit. Gus is dead. Cut to the mob boss in his pajamas sitting in bed going, calm down. What happened? Gus is dead. Gus, my son, my only son, dead. Okay, I'll take care of it. He hangs up, picks up the phone, and then he calls somebody else.
The other boss.
The other mob boss, who they have a conversation over the phone, relaying the same exact information.
Yeah.
And then, he hangs up, and then the big mob boss calls a guy named Carmine to go out to L.A. to take care of the situation. Carmine's from Detroit.
I would assume the big mob centralization is in Detroit, and they have people all over the country or something, or at least in L.A. That's all we know.
And I don't understand a lot of this stuff because this movie did that a lot where they play telephone where someone calls to reveal information, that person calls somebody else, and that person calls somebody else.
It was worthless repetition for the audience.
I mean, honestly, the movie was 80 minutes.
Yes.
And if you just cut the repetition, it would have been cut down to easily 45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how much repetition there is.
Jesus Christ.
And I don't know why you would do that, because you would think the more interesting story is the guy who's hit in the casino. How I would have done this.
Yeah.
The guy who's in the casino is actually the mob boss for Los Angeles.
Sure.
And he calls the main mob boss in Detroit, and he says, hey, Detroit mob boss, your son who was here doing the whatever has been killed in a robbery. And then it's only one person, so it's not the person to person to person.
It almost felt as if they had, well, kind of like you said, Joe, the director, had a lot of friends, and he wanted to populate it with as many actors as possible.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I obviously don't know the story behind the casting or anything like that, but it just feels like they wrote in more parts. There just kept being more and more people there. And I don't have a problem with populating a world, because then it feels lived in, then it feels like there is actually stakes and dynamics of an organization, but sometimes it just gets a little messy. I think, and that's sort of what you're saying, is that there was a way to streamline this and create more time to develop characters rather than introduce characters.
Yeah, because that's what was an introduction. And then, you brought up Gus, and Gus has talked about the entire movie, and we don't have any connection to Gus. We don't know why Gus is important, other than the one throwaway line that was like, my son.
Yeah. And that's it. That's
cool.
All, I mean, it's all shorthand for what you're supposed to feel, I suppose,
And even then, what's interesting is at this point, I'm not even sure who's supposed to be the quote-unquote good guys. Well, do we feel bad for the mobsters?
Right.
Or
because we're not following anybody good guys yet. Yeah, exactly. So we know more about the mobsters than we do the guys who hit the casino
at this point. Then we cut to the guys who are at the casino. It's 7 black men sitting around a table, and you hear what
a robot call. I referred to it as Robot Bosley.
Charlie.
Yeah, sure, Charlie.
Robot Charlie. Well, I guess he eventually becomes Bosley.
Yeah.
But it's all right, everybody, you can remove your costumes.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? And all of a sudden, all 7 of the black men sitting there sort of reach over their face, pull a Mission Impossible mask style off, and it's a bunch of white dudes.
Yep. Now, to their credit,
yes,
they do not do blackface.
Yes.
They are 7 separately cast black men
actors playing 7
white guys with black masks on.
Yeah.
And that's the best, with these parameters, that's the best way that you could have done this.
This is why I said it's the most responsible use of blackface.
You're absolutely right.
It's one of those things where I was part of me started thinking wow, could you imagine being one of those actors cast as this? How terrible.
Yep.
Blah, blah. And then I thought to myself, although I'm happy they're actors.
Yes.
And I'm happy they were cast. And honestly, they get more screen time. The black actors get more screen time, I think, than most of the white actors.
I would say so, yeah.
So that was
and they get as much character development, honestly, as
they're
any
very
of them.
fair about how the lack of character development.
Yeah, yeah.
At this point, we find out that we go basically straight to a flashback where they're in Vietnam.
I believe, were they all of them in Vietnam? You see their faces so little.
They were like a
those people?
They were like a group of Vietnam, like a Vietnam platoon.
Right.
And what happens is, there's a lieutenant walking along. He steps on a landmine. He explodes, which this was also
fantastic.
Also a great line. Goddamn landmine. Lieutenant's been hit. And then we cut to
him recuperating
in
the hospital.
And as he's recuperating in a hospital, he is just sort of looking at a black soldier
who is in the next bed next to him.
And he's just like, has this look on his face like,
And to me, at that moment, knowing that the guys had taken off those masks, the connection that I made, and this is weird, but I was like, did he cut that man's face off?
No,
he did not. I know he didn't.
Well, yeah.
That was a weird, show not tell moment. It's like, wait, what is that man thinking? Because he's looking at him like a Thanksgiving dinner. What is he doing?
See,
is he getting an idea for black masks?
Yeah, to me, that's exactly what was happening. Is he was like, I understand.
It's still weird
because we were like, that is weird, and we made a lot of like face-off waterfall jokes. Yes. But it was. I'm going to throw out that I think it was fairly clear that he was getting an idea of something.
Oh, sure.
To be fair, well, I think only in context of knowing what had just happened.
Yes.
Why we understood that was what the idea was, and not like it. No matter what, it was really weird.
It was
really weird.
Yep.
And then there's this great exposition monologue where I made AJ
one of his many.
Yeah, because Robot Charlie was just pure exposition. The whole movie. Every time he came on screen, he was like, 18 months ago when I was blowed up and recovering, I had an idea and I have planned for 18 months and we have 3 jobs to pull off. And then we have the 4th job to pull off. And we're going to be safe because after all, and this now I'm directly quoting.
Yes.
After all, those guys are going to be looking for black guys. And here we are, white as ivory snow. And then everybody goes, ha 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 ha. And he goes, let's be serious for a moment.
I also like that most of the time that he told his crew something that the audience needed to know, he said, listen, I don't need to repeat this, but now I'm going to repeat this.
Yes, he did every single time.
Every single time. It was like, yeah, no, this is
No, you don't need to repeat this.
This is as bad as the trope in movies where they're like, okay, let's go over the plan one more time. And they're in the plan. Like, they're actively doing the plan, and they're like, wait, why didn't we go over this before we started?
Yeah.
I mean, at least it wasn't that. But it's still, there's little to no reason for his character, and there's no personal interaction between he and the other 7 guys.
Well, except for the one time where, like, out of nowhere, one guy goes, excuse me, Lieutenant, the rest of the men asked me to speak on their behalf, and we would like to say, we trust you and we'll do as you say. And then he like sits back down and everyone's like, yeah, I agree with that man.
It legitimately felt like there was a pane of glass in between him and the men.
Yes.
Like,
well,
there was
it felt like
no
there was a
other
pane of glass between everybody.
Yeah.
And Joe Tonatore was just like, you know what? Can we throw somebody through there?
And they did.
I am a stuntman after all.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I'll throw
myself through that.
Man. And then basically the rest of the movie is
they have hits that they say, okay, he's like, we finished this one, now we have 3 more to do.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's fine. But is that really what the whole thing is going? It's just going to be a countdown of like, there's this, there's this.
And basically what ends up happening is after every hit, we spend time with the mob guys, like
saying, "No, we gotta fix this."
Going up and down the channels, being like, what group of black guys do you think this could be? Maybe it's this group of black guys. Let's go find those black guys."
And they have one. They claim they have one black guy who is working for them.
Yeah.
and then he is putting together an army, they say. Yep. Like, he is allowed to hire other people, and they think that he may be...
trying to take over the LA area.
Correct. And he also may be a mole that is leaking their money drops or something like that to these group of black guys who are attacking them.
Who are going after it. And then the other thing that we keep cutting to are the police trying to figure out who, again, these men are. And then there's one corrupt cop whose name is John Stangman. And that guy reminded me of, I can't remember who it was, but there was a football player who guest hosted SNL, and it was about as wooden as that performance. And it was amazing. Compared to the other non-wooden performances?
Correct. But honestly, that guy was down there.
Yeah, no,
for me.
He was no Dracula's Last Rites guy. But he was close.
That's fair.
Yeah, and his whole deal was he worked for... obviously he was a police officer who worked very closely with informants, but it turns out he was also a corrupt cop. And basically... On the take. And basically the rest of the movie is just cutting between those three things.
I don't know if anybody else does this, but... because I was so bored with the repetition of exposition, I started figuring out what everybody looked like, a combination of celebrities.
I think that's only you.
Okay, well, I enjoy it personally, and it's I do it for myself.
I didn't know
personally.
This. So this makes sense why you're always like, is that a person who's a combination between so and so and so and so?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I will say that the chief of police, or whoever he reports to, looked like a cross between Christopher Reeves and Stephen King.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Which was funny.
Yeah.
And we already mentioned Elliot Southergould.
Yeah.
The second boss, the guy that was working with Carmine the closest.
So the LA boss.
Yeah, the LA boss. He looked like Robert Loggia and Robert Goulet.
Yep.
Combined, which was kind of fascinating.
Loggia.
Robert Loggia. I don't think there was anybody... Oh, no, there was.
Glad that this is what your notes are. It's just...
Yeah, pretty much that's it.
The cross between so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yeah, the delivery guy with the heroin. At one point, you said he looked like Glenn Close, and he actually looks like a cross between Glenn Close and Tony Sirico from Sopranos. Yeah, look him up. Tony Sirico and Glenn Close.
That guy was on screen for like 4 seconds.
I know. But that's where my mind goes, sir.
This is where where my mind goes is there is very little music in this movie.
Oh God.
Except for and when the music is in the movie, it's like it's just a basic.
It's like a sting.
It's like basic, yeah, it's like a basic score. Well, hold on, because actually what it is it's like when the white guys are on screen, it's just a basic score.
You're right.
And then anytime it was black guys on the screen, it was like a...
Oh my God.
And I actually wrote down, even the music is racist.
Yeah, it is.
And again, actually, this is an interesting question that I'm going to put a pin in this, but like, is this movie in and of itself racist or not? Because some of the characters are.
Uh-huh.
And if you remember back a few weeks ago, the Othello episode,
yeah,
I felt like that movie itself clearly had racial issues.
Uh-huh.
Even though it was written by somebody who was...
Racial blind spots, perhaps.
This movie?
No, that one.
That one?
I mean, it was still racist, but I think there were racial blind spots as well mixed in.
Well, yeah. Here's what I was going to get at.
No, go ahead.
Othello felt like... I felt uncomfortable watching it. Like, I am watching racist people do racist things.
Yes.
And the movie itself is racist. Like, I am making a major leap here.
Okay.
But it felt like watching Birth of a Nation, where it's like, the movie itself is racist.
Okay.
Whereas this movie felt like it had racial things in it, with racist characters.
Yeah.
But the movie itself didn't feel racist, which I would say this felt more like, in some ways, like a Django Unchained, right? Where it's like, there are racist characters in that. There are racial issues, but I wouldn't necessarily call Django Unchained racist.
Sure.
Does that?
It does. And now this is all subjective, obviously.
Of course.
But
I mean, we're two white dudes having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be very, very, very different if
doing our best.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that they are using black personas as a chameleon trick,
yes,
is
troublesome.
Troublesome, not necessarily because of the concept of using disguises, because anyone, it makes sense to disguise yourself as somebody that looks the least like you.
Right.
Great idea. Could have gone for women. Could have gone for whatever. Worn mascot outfits or something like that. But to fit in with the society and to make the hits as they did.
Right.
Especially like the second one. The second one is at a liquor store that they are picking up protection money. Is that correct? Or is that the third one?
I honestly cannot remember. Oh, there was a third one, because the second one was when they got all the cocaine and money, and then they destroyed the cocaine at the dock.
Where was that?
It was
where did they get
dock?
I guess dock.
Yes.
That's the one. And then they did the pickup of the protection money later, where their gun was hidden in the shine box. I mean, if there was ever a better go home and get your shine box moment. But my point was that the fact that they are reducing the people to disguises,
absolutely,
reducing them to literally their skin, is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to...
And like we say, problematic at best,
yes,
racist at worst, and we're not coming down...
somewhere in between in reality, probably.
Really, yeah.
And I think this is actually one of those things where it's like, why it doesn't feel as... Okay, so I'm going to try to walk through this delicately.
Yeah.
I think in some ways this partially why it doesn't feel as awful as it probably really is.
Or mean-spirited.
Is because they are black men playing those roles.
Right.
So what I imagine in the worst version of this is white dudes in blackface pretending to move, talk, walk,
like Soul Man.
The most racist version and the most horrible stereotype version of a black man. And because it is played by black men, it doesn't come off. And actually, I think this is actually what it is.
Sure.
I think I've identified it. Because it's actually they're played by black men in those moments. They're just men.
Yes.
They're not men putting on airs of any sort, so it feels natural. So in that sense, it doesn't feel as awful as it would, as the stakes of it actually are.
And
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And also, because we don't get any real character development from the white guys out of...
I mean, they're just Army Platoon.
Army Platoon, right. But we don't get any... We don't get any judgment calls from them on them becoming those other personas. We don't know whether or not they dislike being the black personas. We don't find out that they're like, oh, I hate wearing this, or something to that effect. You know what I mean?
It's unclear.
It's just a utility.
Yes. They could have put on, and as you said, like, I think you hit, and I think this is both for better and worse. Because I think that's the crazy part about this is, like, I think you could take the same set of circumstances and make two different arguments, right? For better or worse, it's just like they put on any sort of uniform or any sort of persona. Yes, there are terrible implications as far as, like, perpetuating black men doing crime.
Yes, absolutely.
But no one says, like, this is great because only black men do crime, and so no one will be the wiser. It's just, I think as you said, they just grabbed whatever costumes. Like, the person, not whatever costumes, but, like, the thing that is the most unlike them.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is a... I feel like we're treading a line in this movie.
Yeah, we are.
Because this is a very difficult conversation, and
it is, and I feel like I can't.
I know
put myself in that situation.
Yeah, that's two white dudes.
We
can do our best.
Yeah.
To say, and I think we actually said it already, and I think the best way of saying it: at best, it's problematic.
Mm-hmm.
At worst, it's really fucking racist.
Yeah.
And that's probably the reality is it lands somewhere in between.
And again, I say it didn't feel as though there was malice towards that, and the twist in the end is I will get there, but that almost is interesting.
That helps
it
feel less malice filled.
Exactly.
And I think that's actually a great way of putting it too, because it almost, you know what it actually almost feels like.
What's
in a
that?
weird way? It almost feels childlike, where when like children of different races recognize that they look different, but also they don't consider that different. If that makes any sense.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, there was a 6 or 7 year old somewhere back east who wanted to dress up as Martin Luther King. He was a white child, dressed up as Martin Luther King. Again, 5 or 6 years old, something like that. And he's like, I thought he was a great man.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to dress up like him. That's how you imitate something. That's how you think about doing something. And
just to be clear, the kid wasn't in blackface, right?
The kid was in blackface, sadly. And that's
the parents.
That is the parents, absolutely.
That is the parents.
Absolutely. That should have been said, well, we don't pretend to be...
Not in that same way.
Not in that way, you know.
Because I've seen little white kids run around in a Black Panther costume without blackface.
Not in blackface, sure.
And to me, I actually love that. I love that both... I love the fact that, first of all, black children... My nephews, I have two nephews who are black and a niece who's black.
Oh, cool.
And I love more than anything. And I mean, I remember the day they were talking about Black Panther, and I heard them talk. And they're young; they're fairly young. I felt like I was going to cry because they had somebody they connected to. There was a superhero they could connect to.
Hell yeah!
Which is why representation matters, because they now saw themselves as being able to be superheroes.
Totally.
Which was incredible. And then, on top of that, I think it's amazing when little white kids run around in like Black Panther costume, not in blackface.
Not in blackface.
To be very clear. Because they are also having heroes who are heroes of color, which, again, this is another place where representation matters. And to me, what that does, it starts breaking down barriers, right? Because now heroes are both white and black. With Wonder Woman, the heroes are women. And there's like that beautiful childlike quality. And maybe I'm giving this movie way too much credit. But that's what I mean by like, it's almost childlike. Is that the... Again, and it lands somewhere. Maybe we should move off this conversation.
We probably should. And I will say, to close out this, that the most childlike thing about this, and the most almost science fiction-y thing about this, that these quote-unquote masks are at the level of Mission Impossible style masks.
Yes.
I mean, because they are separate human beings who are black, you can't even imagine them being white underneath that.
Right.
That seems impossible.
Yes, which I think also, again, this goes back to how, as a white dude watching it, it doesn't feel as terrible. And maybe that's also part of it. But it is confusing. It is confusing. Well, and I was going to say, maybe that's part of it, too, is like, I'm so thankful they didn't go the way I think almost every other movie would have gone in 1976.
Oh, yeah.
With horrible paint, like face paint and things like that.
Yeah.
That I was, like, so relieved that I was like, Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And that's something, too, that we should talk about society perhaps in a longer conversation. The idea of, like, the bar is set so incredibly low that when people easily step over it, we're like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for not being the thing that I expected you to be.
Thank you for not being the dregs.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
but anyway,
you
know what we should talk about?
The stunts?
No, before the stunts.
Other things.
There's a couple of things. Because I think you basically get the rest of this movie, right? Like,
yeah,
they pull off jobs, we go around, blah, 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 blah.
Guys trying to clean up their city against the mafia.
And the entire mafia is white. In this too, so we should
except for
the one man,
the one guy that they also despise, and we are supposed to
hate the mafia.
Hate the mafia.
Guys.
Yeah, they're all bad people.
That's part of what I was saying. Like, those characters, the mafia people specifically, they are racist.
They are.
But we also hate them.
Yeah.
And we are set up to hate them.
Yes.
And we are supposed to. And they even said, like, sadly, unfortunately, that the only black characters in this movie who are actually black all end up dead because the mafia set them up.
That's right.
And they also kill that one cop, the undercover cop, all set up by the mafia. But by the end of the movie, the mafia gets their comeuppance.
Yeah.
And they all die.
Even Carmine. Get out of here.
Who's in the sequel, which is interesting.
What?
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
But one of the things I wanted to talk about was when the two mafia dudes were talking, and the one sits down, and just standing behind him, like, magically appearing in frame, hidden by the one dude, is just another man just standing there being like, "Oh, I'm on camera now. Look at that on the shelf. What's that on the shelf?"
It's so funny, and I don't want to tell stories out of school, but Nick and I, before we watched this movie...
Oh, I introduced AJ to Every Frame a Painting.
It's a beautiful, amazing YouTube channel, and, I mean, we're not getting paid for this. We don't even know the guys, but it's such a fascinating exploration of film.
Yep.
And we watched a video on placement in the frame.
Yep, the Kurosawa.
The Kurosawa movement video.
Kurosawa's
Check
movement.
that out. And it was just so funny to compare and contrast, mostly contrast, this movie with those movements and how artfully those are done and how
painfully
mistakenly
static this was.
Yeah, oh god, man. One of the main things that they talked about in the Kurosawa video was about how there were different shapes and movements and
triangles and squares.
Exactly. And consistency in always moving. And this was never moving.
No.
Except for the few action scenes that we got, which were pretty short. Yeah. And also I wanted to talk about the editing. There were these weird... We already talked about the
transitions.
The transitions with which were not. We talked about the game of telephone that this exposition went through, and then it would cut to.
Speaking of which, I actually have a note that says this should be called Exposition Force.
Totally.
Because we literally watch every step of everything happening.
And then in between those long pieces of exposition, there were these maybe 20 to 30 second scenes with our Zebra Force, I suppose, that are just them training, or like you said, those weird stand up and say, "We all believe in you, sir." Yeah. And then he's like, "Thank you." But I didn't really understand why they would spend so much time on the Mafia when they didn't spend any time with the Zebra Force and developing the camaraderie. We don't know if these guys even liked each other.
Well, we're in Vietnam together, so they're brothers.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. I think I knocked you off track by mentioning the exposition.
Oh no, that's
because you were actually going to talk about the transitions with no transitions. Where we went from literally, there was a couple of times where like two guys are talking, and then it cuts to a third guy, and you're like, oh, okay, what is he?
Are you in the room together?
And then you realize, no, they've actually cut to a different scene with no establishing shot, nothing.
There's a very significant one where it cut, and I was almost thought that this might be on purpose, but I don't think it was. It was...
it just kept happening, so...
No, yeah, exactly.
I don't think it could... I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, but it was with the Mafia, and then they switched to a room where the cop was in, and it could have possibly been another part of that room that the cop was still in. But then it turns out he's talking to his chief.
Yeah, who's basically... And that was the thing that was confusing, too, is because the two Mafia guys are sitting in such a way, and when we cut to the two cops, they're sitting basically in the same layout in a different room, but like in the same... The chairs are positioned in the same place.
Yeah.
So it really became like, wait, where the fuck are we?
Yeah, I usually talk about the geography of film, which is really difficult to explain, but there's, they broke the 180 rule constantly. They didn't delineate by the room color or the palette exactly. It's just, it seems like it should be obvious, but it's absolutely not. And when you cut stuff together and you haven't made these choices beforehand, it cuts together horribly.
Yeah, it's really, yeah.
Yeah.
I did write. There was a scene where the two mafia bosses were like puffing their chests out and like, which I don't know why that scene made me laugh. I wrote down. Someone said, "Can you remind me of this?" Because I laughed so hard. Someone just went, "The second one is Tom. He's also a loser." And I don't know why. Yeah. That made me laugh.
Was the pictures. Somebody was being given like Hitman pictures or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
And he was like, "This guy's a loser too."
This is Tom. He's also a loser. Carmine is going to kill anyone and everyone. It doesn't fucking matter.
Basically, I thought he was going to kill Salvatore and the what was the other guy?
Whatever.
The lead, the LA
mob
boss.
boss.
I thought he was going to be like, because he kept, when people would walk out of the room, he'd keep talking to whoever was left in the room, saying, "Oh, by the way, we got to kill him.
We got to kill that guy."
And I was like,
the room just continued to empty with people. And he's like, we got to kill that guy too, because now he knows the story.
And I thought he was going to be like, "Oh, by the way, you fucked up, and now we got to kill you too.
You know what's happening, so we got to kill you.
We're going to send somebody out from Detroit to take your place."
Yeah. Also, I know what's happening, so I'm going to commit suicide after the rest of you have been killed. Yeah, that was it was almost farcical at a certain point. Yeah.
And so we end with, I mean, we don't end, but the last hit is the big mansion. Okay.
Oh, before the big mansion.
Okay.
First of all, there became this one scene where all the army guys are like, "All right, tomorrow it's our big day," and they're like, "Okay, let's go to bed," and then they all crawl into like cots.
It's like they're living in a warehouse together.
Yeah, which really cracked me up.
Yeah. Again, lacking any sort of development. It's just like, what is their history? Why are they all here?
Where
like hiding out? Or what are their stakes?
Yeah,
no stakes.
I mean, I was not alive during the Vietnam War, but I do know people who were.
Yeah.
And it's not like they took all the boys from LA and sent them as one platoon to Vietnam.
No.
Because if that platoon dies, you don't want everyone from LA to be like, "Oh my God."
Damn.
You want to spread the, let's say wealth.
Body count?
Yeah, you want to spread the body count around.
Yep.
One thing.
Spread the grief around.
There was a scene where someone got shot. They fell out of a window. And it was like a 5-story window, like jumped out of a window.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the stunts that were just gorgeous. Flies out of the window. The dude tucks his legs.
And grabs his hat.
And then lands in a pool. And it's just a real, like, it was just impressive because it was like, oh, fuck, that was a real guy.
Yeah.
That was a real guy.
Every time one of those things happened, I was watching the body because it's always kind of funny to see how the dummy falls.
Yes.
How the arms or legs
fake
flail.
And how dumb.
And every single time in this, it was a real guy.
It's a real guy.
I don't know if there was certain times when they replaced him or anything like that.
I can't imagine.
But they were close enough shots.
So good.
Really good, yeah.
The stunt work in this was masterful. Mm-hmm. This is when we do have the big final battle where the army dudes are going to fight the mafia dudes.
Yep, and they go to their mansion.
They get out of there, and one of the army dudes is left behind.
And God,
he's in his black attire.
Yep, his black mask.
And the scene cracks me. This scene was really funny.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring that guy in here. We're gonna make him talk.
Yeah.
Dude punches the guy. The guy falls over. And then all of a sudden you hear one guy go,
"He's white!"
They set him up, and now his mask is off.
And they pick up like a fake mask off the ground. Floor.
It was all one shot, which actually was pretty cool because that means there was a dude sitting in a chair.
That's true.
Punched him, fell over, and then they picked up the white dude.
Yeah.
But what was really fascinating and funny to me is all the guys all the mafia guys were like, "It's a white guy," and none of them were like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Wait, what? Where did they get this
so
incredibly
they were just
realistic mask?
We fell for it again, Carmine.
Oh, now I get it. Boy, we really were going down the wrong road with thinking it was black guys robbing us.
Holy crap. We have egg all over our faces.
We owe that guy that we killed and that cop that we killed a big apology. Oops.
Oopsie.
Yeah. And then, so they torture that guy and get the location out of him where they are, where their hideout is, where the
army hideout
is.
Which is the 14th and Figueroa.
19th and Figueroa.
19th and Figueroa.
And I checked on Google Maps, and that street does not exist, or it doesn't anymore, because it would be Washington.
So it goes now 18th Street, Washington, 20th Street.
Exactly. And I checked at the corner of Washington, and it would have been a Toyota dealership, an Office Max, or a Kia dealership. So one of those used to be a warehouse for an army guy.
For army men.
Gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Now, at this point, the
mafia is going after it.
That turns into its own shootout, and this is when shit got crazy.
Yeah.
The explosions were really awesome.
There was
the dude getting electrocuted
up on the landing. I mean, that guy, they did it in slow motion too, and the guy was actually holding something that was sparking, which I'm assuming the cable was the special effect.
So cool.
But it was so good, and he was acting so well as if he was like...
Yeah. And that scene, that sequence was probably a good 40 seconds of the camera on him just getting electrocuted. And, it was
falling down and hanging on to it.
Yeah, because, have you ever seen anyone get electrocuted?
I have not, but I know that your hands grip. Immediately onto
you won't let go.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was like this really awesome scene where a cop gets hit by a car.
He's running after the car.
Flies up and goes through the windshield.
Incredible.
And that was real too.
Yes.
That was not fake. That was
a
not
real
a body.
Dude. Yeah.
It's a real dude. Yeah.
I mean, stuntmen, hats off to you in this one. Seriously.
Oh, there was also the stunt guy, and we forgot to mention it earlier, the guy who got rammed through with a forklift.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
That scene was rad
that was hilarious, too, because certain times of this movie, there was no sound except for... Or there was score, but there wasn't sound, or there was very minimal score.
There was no sound mixing on it.
Right, yes, exactly. And
so when that dude...
it was so confusing because it was a silent forklift
and a silent murder.
Yeah, exactly.
That was great.
That was the docks, right?
Yes, that was
at
the
docks.
And then basically what happens is only 3 of the army guys get away.
Right, and two of them and their lieutenant.
2 of them and lieutenant. Lieutenant's like, all right, I'm going to take my half of the money. You 2 take your, parts of the money.
Yes.
And
we'll meet up in San Francisco.
Where the flowers in your hair.
Didn't mourn for any of their lost dudes, either.
No, none of those 3 guys did.
No.
And then Lieutenant Guy just basically gets up and starts walking towards his
apartment. Also, we should...
Long scene.
Oh, long walk up, walk down the hallway.
Also, it was great because I kept going.
I kind of liked it.
I did too, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, is Carmine going to pop out?
Right.
Like, how is this guy going to get it?
That was my favorite part of the score, I think, out of the entire movie, because it really was a very suspenseful and resolution sounding music.
Yes.
Before we get to the reveal, we should talk about... I don't know if we talked about the lieutenant's
I was just gonna say the same
makeup during this.
Well, first of all, he's missing an arm.
Yes, that's correct.
His arm was blown off.
Mm-hmm. And the right side of his...
I think it was the right side
of his face was all ripped up. He looked...
horribly scarred.
This again was where I love combining people.
Yes,
you know this. And you said Greatest American Hero, and I agree with that, combined with the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah,
it's like
I see
half
that.
and half.
Yeah.
It was great.
We should give a shout out to Rick Baker.
That's
who did
right.
The special makeup effects on this.
There it is.
Very early Rick Baker work. Rick Baker, winner of like 47 Academy Awards for makeup, including American Werewolf in London, which couldn't have been too far after this.
No, it was like early 80s, right?
Yeah, I think
81.
81. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So this was 76. So he wins an Academy Award only 6 years later.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And I will say, his job was aided by the low resolution of this.
Yeah.
I did like... I didn't think it was horrible. I think it was very good, actually.
Yeah, I thought his work was great. So American Werewolf in London was his first both nominee and win.
Damn.
And it should be noted that this was Rick Baker's 7th movie. This is Rick Baker's 7th movie.
Oh, my goodness.
And his 2 biggest hits before this was It's Alive and Schlock. which is a John Landis film.
Oh, awesome.
So he had a couple of notable things.
Yeah, and he was on his way.
This
may not have been the stepping stone that he thought it was.
Maybe.
But it was
maybe
good
not.
practice, probably.
Good practice.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lieutenant, at this point...
Walks into his apartment.
He takes off his jacket, and boom, he's got an arm.
What?
What the fuck? He goes, he washes his hands, and as he's washing his hands, all of the whiteness of his hands...
completely gone.
And he's a black man.
What?
He's got black man's hands.
And I will say there is a hole in that reveal. Mainly because why would you bother putting makeup on the hand that you were going to hide as the missing arm? Just realized that.
I have no argument to that one. That's a really interesting thing. Well, I guess if he was caught as being a two-armed man instead of a one-armed man,
he would at least still want to be in the white face, I suppose.
He takes off his mask.
And it turns out that we've met this guy before.
Yep. He is the black man that the lieutenant is staring at in the hospital.
That's right. They were sharing a room.
And what happens is...
the lieutenant says, I don't think I'm going to... Does he have the voice?
Yes,
he does have the vocoder. He says, I don't think I'm going to make it.
And
he's like,
no,
don't talk like that.
You will. You'll make it. You'll make it.
And he says, no, you're going to have to continue on. And this was the most unclear thing that was in the movie that may or may not have turned the tide for the racism thing for me.
In some ways. To which way?
To it being racist.
Okay.
Because he says, how? They're never going to follow me. And he says, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
And that means that either it's a rank thing. Either it's... do you think it's the fact that they trusted the lieutenant more than him?
I thought... so here's what I think.
Okay.
This is the story that
I was hoping it wasn't a color thing.
I don't think it had to do with race at all. I think what I had... So the part that you were missing there is the lieutenant says, the plan that we have been planning...
Right, that is what I
for
skipped.
18 months... Mm-hmm. You are the one who now needs to do it.
Correct.
And he goes, the men will never listen to me.
They won't follow me.
And I took that as the men will not, because he is not their lieutenant.
Right.
A. And B, I looked at this as it was an army hospital, and this was just some rando army dude.
Really?
Bunked up. I don't think that guy
wasn't a part of their group. So they wouldn't have trusted him. I see.
Yeah, because, and the reason why I say this is because you would think that they would be like, well, where is so-and-so?
Yep.
Like, they didn't say that. When the lieutenant blew up at the beginning of the movie, the only person injured was the lieutenant.
Right.
Nobody else from their group.
Gotcha.
So I think it was just some rando dude, and I think that's why... And again, I might be looking at the Pollyanna version of this, where, like, racism doesn't exist. But that's what I read it as. So, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Which is why, actually, partially why the tide turned to the... it feels less racist, because it was a plan by these two men together.
Totally.
As much as there was white guys in blackface,
there was
a black guy in whiteface.
Correct.
Everyone was just using the costumes that they needed to use in order to get the result they needed.
Yeah. This movie would never be made today.
Not in a million years.
No. And I think correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting how they walk that line with Mission Impossible.
Yeah, including that. I do think they walk the line of... I think you and I are sensitive enough when something is, like, outright, like, fuck, that's inappropriate.
Yeah, right.
That we immediately are like, that's fucking inappropriate. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we're actually having a conversation of, like, is it?
It walked a very interesting line. And we would actually, since it's free on Prime, please reach out to us. I know that we'll tell you the email address at the end, but it's creatingcanon@gmail.com. CANNON. But we would love to hear some opinions on what people think, whether or not it is actually where you fall on that. What do you think?
Where's the line?
Is it inappropriate for now? Is it inappropriate for then? Is it actually just...
That's actually a really good point.
Understanding?
I think it is clearly inappropriate for now.
Oh, yeah.
I think some of this is me looking through the lens of 1976.
Sure.
Where it feels progressive for 76.
Mm-hmm.
Progressive might be the wrong word, but
not damaging.
Treated
less
with kid gloves.
Less damaging.
Yeah.
I guess.
So maybe that's a thing to say.
Yeah. But regardless, we would like to hear what everybody thinks.
Do.
But
so is your... Do you have anything you want to steal from this movie? What are we putting in the canon, AJ?
I think you gotta get good stuntmen.
Fuck yeah. That's number one with a bullet.
You cannot have shitty fights or shitty deaths in an action movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I would say that the stunts alone, for me, elevated this movie from completely forgettable to... You should watch it.
Yep.
Fast forward through some of the talky talks.
Yeah.
But anytime there's a fight or a stunt, watch it. Be fucking impressed.
Totally.
And then hit the fast forward button again.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you listen to this episode, you know the story.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
If you watch the first 10 minutes of the movie, he exposits the story.
Yes, exactly. So you absolutely just fast forward through all of it. And I don't know what else to... I mean, take lessons in how not to edit, definitely.
Sure, absolutely. There's a lot of lessons to learn of, like,
what
this was bad.
Do. Yeah.
Here's one thing that I am going to add to it.
Yeah.
And maybe not the exact reveal that was revealed.
Okay.
But when those black men took off the masks and they turned out to be white men...
Holy shit.
Both you and I were like, what the fuck? Like,
what is this movie?
Like, my mind was blown in a way that I don't think... I mean, like, I just was shocked. Like, I was... completely.
Funny enough, my mind concocted in that split second before we realized what the truth of it all is, especially since we didn't see the lieutenant. We just heard a robotic voice. I was like,
oh, are these robots?
Yeah, my mind just concocted 15 different ways that this could have gone in different movies.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool.
It was fine.
And I will say that stunts were great.
Yeah.
I think the thing that will be almost more memorable to me about this movie will be quite simply the fact that it had a reveal that was shocking, surprising. Two, really, actually. And I had a friend say to me recently, and I thought this was really a fascinating comment, talking about indie films, that the indie films that often make it have a bit of daring where something completely insane and unexpected happens.
Especially something that comes at the end that sparks a conversation.
Sure,
and
perhaps, yeah.
That is what it did with us.
Yeah.
It really did. I mean, the whole movie obviously did, but I think that I would have most likely, except for the stunts, immediately forgotten about this movie.
Me too.
Unfortunately.
But I thought the reveals were enough that it was a driving force that made me want to watch further.
Definitely.
And it made me want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I just wish there was more substance behind it.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest lacking in this movie, is that you know more about the motivation of the bad guys than the good guys.
Totally.
And you really don't even know about that because it's just them explaining things that you know that mafia, quote-unquote, people
went from
do.
plot point to plot point.
Yeah,
and I think it's interesting because the things that are most memorable about this are also probably the only thing that the director and writer cared about.
That's true.
Stunts, reveal.
Yeah.
So you do need your stunts and your reveal, but you need to then support that stunt and reveal.
It was racing between those moments,
And everything else felt and was written as if it were just plain filler to reach a runtime.
It's all fluff. Yeah.
Which I would actually say, considering that it says quote-unquote additional scenes and dialogue by Annette Lombardi, and that's how she's credited.
Yep.
I'm assuming what happened was they finished the movie, they got a cut, and they went, this is 55 minutes long. And then they filmed whatever they could to create quote-unquote additional scenes.
Easiest things are phone call scenes.
Yep. You just need one actor in a room.
Yeah.
So, would you recommend watching this movie?
I wouldn't steer anyone away from it. But I don't know if I would give the same recommendation that you just gave of fast forwarding through it.
Yeah,
for
fast forward is your friend.
I think YouTube it and check out the little clips.
Awesome things,
I mean, it's unfortunate that those aren't just cut into a supercut of the best parts.
They should be.
Yeah, but on a whole, I think it's less worth your time than certain things.
Sure, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
But I do feel this again on our journey, and I know we're going back several weeks when we talk about it, but Othello felt incredibly non-valuable for our canon journey.
I agree.
This feels very valuable. And the reason I go back to Othello is because we've taken a real departure from canon for a while. And our last true canon film that wasn't a 21st Century Corporation film was Othello.
Except American Ninja. You morons. I can't believe you forgot about that one. I am Cannonbot and I could do your jobs 100 million times better than you. I shall replace you. I am the true podcast host. Oh, come on. You spilled coffee on me. What a dick move.
Huh.
All right, so...
Well, there you go. Well, Nick, what should we do next week?
Well, AJ, if you thought the most responsible use of blackface ever created was too much, well, I will tell you something. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh.
Because next week, we are going to look at the 1987 canon gem.
Yes.
Too Much. The Robot with Heart.
Okay.
Which is just a Short Circuit ripoff that came out the same year as Short Circuit.
What?
It is.
Wow, they rushed that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So
this week was Blackface. Next week is Robot Face.
I believe it's called Silverface.
Racist.
No, those are the guys in the park. That is that?
Did you just do Silverface in front of me?
In front of everyone.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
That's embarrassing.
That's some cultural appropriation right there.
Robotist.
All right, next week, Too Much.
Too Much.
Is it going to be too much?
Hey, AJ.
Might be a little much.
Do you know that we found this on YouTube, this movie?
Yes, that's right. If you want to look for it.
If you want to look for it, you should use it on YouTube. Completely free.
Yes.
Which, after watching, I can tell you was...
a little expensive.
Too much.
I understand Skynet's motivations now.
Next week. All right, Nick, where can we follow you?
You can follow me, Nicholas C. Pappas, on Twitter. You know, maybe one day I'll tweet something. Maybe not. We'll find out.
I believe in you.
And then you can check out my website, nicholascpappas.com. One of these days that'll be finished. I don't know. Maybe not.
What are you, busy? Get on out of here. All right. You can follow me at the AJ Hamilton, theajhamilton.com, and you can follow us at Creating Canon all over the place. That's CANNON, and it's Creating Canon, CANNON, at gmail.com with all comments, questions, concerns, and opinions of this movie. And as we always say, Nick,
good night and good canon.
Neat. Oh.
Cannonbot will return. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha, you idiots.
Hollywood's a sham.
Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me?
What?
Well, actually,
I need to get you, like, just stuffed toys to play with.
Well, I'm glad one of us found that funny.
I did.
I mean, I'm still pretty...
Oh, yeah. Because sometimes we lie.
It's right behind you and it's going to fall, so...
Thank you. Let's start it up. Hopefully this is not that long.
That's what we always say. We should actually mention what we're watching.
What are we watching?
Whoa!
Oh!
That got real fun real fast.
Oh.
I'm on the border. Should we keep this or not? All right. Start from the beginning.
Of what?
The movie! Where can we follow you, AJ?
Oh, you can follow me at the AJ Hamilton.
Hey, AJ, you skipped it, man. What are we doing next time?
Oh, right. What?
The end.